Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Creative Real Estate. Today I am exceptionally excited to have our guest on the line. I've got Oliver Fernandez over here from McKenzie Construction. And we're just blessed to have his time. He's recently had a little girl. And so I know time is the most valuable thing. And I'm just really grateful to have you online. So thanks for joining us.
Hi, how you doing? I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you for having me.
I'm good. It's good. Thank you for joining us. So, I was fortunate enough to meet you at one of the multifamily boot camps, I think, or the masterminds actually, that we joined up in Denver, Colorado. Is that correct? I think that's where we first met.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And I was just really inspired by you, a bit of your story, your background, and I thought that it would be valuable for our listeners to just join in on the call. So maybe we could start out with you just sharing a bit more about yourself, what you're passionate about, and sharing a little bit more about McKenzie Construction.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I grew up in Maine. I grew up with my mom and my three sisters. My mom she stayed at home with me and my sisters and, worked with us on our schooling and really was committed in that area of our growth. And my dad, he grew up in the projects. He met my mom and he started a company. So when he had that company, I had the ideas, starting to see the ideas of entrepreneurship. So I went through after I graduated from high school, I wanted to potentially go into the military, and that idea freaked my mom out. She went to college, so she really wanted me to go to college. My dad, he, grew up in the project, graduated high school, and really didn't do much after high school. He too, being an entrepreneur and being in business, had seen people and his peers go to college and be successful. So he too pushed me to make that commitment to go to college. So I decided to take that commitment, go to college. I studied civil engineering there. During the study of civil engineering, I realized that it was very focused on the math, the sciences. And those are all things that I wasn't good at in the beginning, but I became good at it after I created good study habits. So I graduated and then I got a job down in Atlanta working for a construction management. And that job didn't last long. When I graduated, it was 2008. And that's when the economy was losing 200,000 jobs a week, similar to times like now. And it was pretty scary. The idea that I thought, getting a job and, working for someone was going to be security, that illusion popped almost instantly because I was laid off. And then all of a sudden I had student loans.
I love the word you used there, that illusion of security fell off. And I think, it's a relevant thing to just kind of speak about now, because I think most people that have felt very secure in their jobs for a long period of time, suddenly with this COVID-19 outbreak across the globe, there's a lot of people out there that are extremely fearful, extremely concerned, have lost that sense of security potentially. And I think as entrepreneurs, there's lots of things that we're obviously concerned about in this environment, but at the same time, we take ownership and responsibility for that. And that brings you a sense of comfort knowing that it's in your control. I think what you're speaking about is just so relevant for today.
Right. Yeah, 100%. So what I did was I got laid off. In the beginning, the first day I was extremely happy. I called my mom and in my mind, I was oh my God, I have all my time back. I can now do what I want to do. But then the next day I got hit with, oh wow, I got bills to pay. I have rent. I have student loans. This job that I got to be able to provide for my family and help my mom out and maybe send money back home, now all of a sudden was taken away. Yeah. So now my survival instincts kicked in, and I got really fearful. But looking back, you can never connect the dots in that moment. But looking back, I see something that was really powerful for me at that time. And that was my ability to change and change directions really quickly. And you see it in sports. You see it all across. The people who can change directions really quickly are the people who survive. Yeah, bad things happen to everybody, but those are the people that can bounce back,
Absolutely.
So I changed directions really quickly. I committed to going back and finish, I was doing a part-time master's degree, and I decided to finish that up. And I took six courses this semester. So I finished it up in a year. It was supposed to be a 2.5-year program.
Wow.
I finished that up in a year. And then after that, I just committed getting better in real estate. I've worked on a piece of property back home in Maine. It was a development deal where it was a shell, and we had to go in and finish the construction on that shell.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, the thing that was really powerful with me on that situation was that I worked with all the trades on that project. So I worked with the plumbing team, I worked with the electrical team, I worked with the drywall team. And I hadn't been that sore working since I had like gone back to like my playing football days.
Yeah.
So like I physically worked with those guys.
You don't
But
get
I
any
got
experience.
I got a tremendous understanding of how things go together, the time it takes to go together, you know, and I still use those skills even to this day. That's from my construction company. I'm really good at estimation because I understand what it takes to make things come together, you know?
Yeah.
So I can set the expectations of my clients up front. I can set the budgets for my expectations for my clients up front. So it's always becomes a win-win situation because everybody already knows what's going to happen.
No, that's amazing. I think that first-hand experience is vital in any business to really understand it. And that would probably be my message to anyone in any position, whether it's real estate or whether it's another business, is to just start in the trenches. You don't need to live there. You don't need to build your house in the trench, but I think it's important to start in the trench to be able to understand the bigger picture later on. And for me, it's part of why I do things the way I do it today, is to get a better understanding. And it's part of my curiosity, just wanting to speak to people like yourself that have been in that construction space and that have walked that path, because there's so much to learn from it. And it's so important to be able to communicate with people that have actually done it. You know, it's one thing to give off an order and to expect someone to go get it done. But until you've really done it yourself, it's hard to know whether it should take 5 minutes or whether it should take 5 hours, and how difficult it is to get that task done and to really appreciate what that person's doing. So I think that's interesting. And then you left the previous job. What did you say the previous job was?
My first job out of college was a construction management job for Skanska. And that was in Atlanta.
In Atlanta. Okay.
And
you left that. That's where you got a bit of experience beforehand. You then came across this project after leaving that job and after completing your studies. You came across this project. How did you take the leap? How did you raise money to do the first deal? Like, what was the scenario?
So the scenario was, it was a property that my mom had bought while we were like in high school. Yeah. And she wanted to like renovate this property so that me and my sisters could live there. Obviously, a shell is not an easy task. So I think she got overwhelmed by all the little details that needed to be done. So it was a property that she had and sat for almost 10 years. So after I got my studies done, I was like, wow, this is like a great starter project. I can, you know, finish this project up, get it to a position where we can rent it out and be able to receive the rental income from it. I then got a loan from my aunt to help me with like financing the deal from a construction standpoint. It was a pretty powerful situation because once the project was finished, I started to see the power of rental real estate. I had a mortgage. Yeah. And the renters were paying the mortgage. I was able to leave that project, move to another project, but I was still receiving residual income from that project.
That is amazing. And I think what's especially cool about your story is not many people would be able to go into a completely gutted project and turn it around. But I think with your background and experience, it's a nice niche to be able to carve out. For myself, if I was going to do my first real estate deal, I wouldn't touch something like that. I'd just be too scared, too intimidated, wouldn't know what to do. In your situation, you had that experience, and then you also had the reality of your mom actually owning this property and you being able to like jump on it and try to take advantage of that. So from there, how did you then scale across into, was McKenzie Construction around then? How did you start turning that into a business? And today, I think you're serving more government-based contracts in the construction space. Is that correct?
Right. So that was my first real like construction project that I like managed from point A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. It took all of my attention. It took all of my focus, and I focused on it, and I started it and I finished it. Then I moved on to doing some other construction projects with my dad. My dad had always been in construction. He had spent 30 years in construction, you know? Yeah. So it was, we were going after some projects together down in Florida, and we were putting together, you know, obviously there's a process for that. There's proposal process. Yeah. We were putting a bunch of proposals together, you know, sending a bunch out. And then we ended up getting some of those jobs, right? Okay. And now before we were always doing like smaller projects. Now all of a sudden we got jobs that were like $500,000, $1 million job, a $2 million job.
Yeah.
So these are jobs that needed big commitments, right?
Yeah.
So I then started to reach out to the local banks, and they wouldn't give me any credit. So I would then look to get like credit cards with them. So I was paying, you know, a higher interest rate, but I still had access to money. It wasn't actual tangible money, but it was money that we could buy materials with. And then when we got paid from our vendors, then we would have actual cash, right?
Nice.
So my thought process was like, if we were good at managing that, we would then be able to use this higher interest debt to get a footing in the market. And then we'd be able to use the cash that we would receive from them to continue to pay our payroll over time.
That's amazing. So you're cash flowing your business off a few credit cards to get going.
Right. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And I mean, it's scary thinking about it going back in time, because you now understand, or even in the current time, it's scary because, you know, it's credit cards. Everybody's telling you don't want to have debt. But at the same time, I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't take that chance or that risk, you know?
Yeah.
So there's always two sides of the coin. There's the side of the coin where you don't do anything. And then there's the side of the coin where you actually take a chance and the risk, you know? And I took the risk, and it didn't work out as planned or as like the storybook ending. You know, there was a lot of trials and tribulations, but then again, it goes back to before, is you got to be willing to take the risk and then change if it doesn't work, right? Yeah. And not change the whole blueprint. Like, I still stayed in construction, but like change the model, change the projects you're going after, change the people you're surrounding yourself with.
Absolutely. Not changing the goal, just changing the plan as to how you're getting there, or the roadmap, essentially.
Correct.
I think the big difference over there for you is, I mean, you weren't taking out credit card debt to go buy junk. You're using a cash flow business, which you had a good grasp on, a good understanding of, which you'd done your own project on prior to. And so there's risk. A lot of people would perceive that as risky, but for someone that has the knowledge and the know-it-all and the self-belief to be able to actually execute on the plan in front of them, there wasn't much risk there. You know, you knew what you were doing and you were going after it.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, I appreciate all the accolades and the confidence you're instilling in me. But to be 100% honest with you, I had to create that belief as I went on. Like, that belief is not always going to be rock solid 100% in the beginning. But as you move forward and each step you take, you start to believe more, and then you start to build that confidence more, and it keeps getting reinforced by your successes. Then obviously you may have a failure. Like, I had plenty of failures. All of the jobs that I thought were going to be these quote unquote home runs, you know, they ended up being losers. We ran into obstacles. We ran into water. We ran into a situation where there was unforeseen conditions. Yeah. And those are all challenges that you have to work through. But I don't care any situation. I don't care if it's a real estate deal. I don't care if it's construction. I don't care if it's your relationship with your wife. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be a problem. You just have to work through them. And the people that get results in life are the people that work through the problem. They don't run from the problems. They address them head on. They realize, and they work through them.
Absolutely. I think that's a great message. That self-belief didn't come off the very get-go. It takes time to build, and there's mistakes, and then you realize once you work through that mistake and you figured it out, somehow things figure themselves out. You just got to keep putting the one foot in front of the other. And I suppose, you know, faith doesn't happen overnight. It happens throughout time and a period of successes and failures, but ultimately by not giving up, it turns into a success. So I appreciate you bringing that up and focusing on that. I think so just to sum it up a bit, so McKenzie Construction at the moment in today's market, what are you guys focusing on? Is it still mainly government contracts? Is it more your own real estate deals? Is it construction on other people's real estate deals? What are you doing?
So we focus on government contracts, and then we also focus on real estate. And the government contracts, we're definitely going to double down on that right now. We're looking to, and a lot of people, or even myself, struggle with this, is like, I get a business to where I want it to be, and then it's like, now what else can I do? What else can I do? And I've hired, you know, coaches and people and put myself around people that could continue to better me and give me advice. And what they've told me is like, instead of going and running out and to do different things, I need to focus on what I'm currently working on and double down on that, get better at what I'm working on, go deeper into what I'm working on. You know, now I mainly work in the Southeast, like Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina. Yeah. Don't just focus on that area. Let's go nationwide with it. One of my best clients is the Navy. There's navies throughout the entire world, but I don't need to go throughout the entire world. I can just go stick to the United States. Like, I'm going out to Washington State. I'm going out to California now. I'm going out to Reno, Nevada. So I'm doubling down on the construction from that standpoint. Okay. So that I keep my focus on that. And then I've always had real estate, and I always worked on that real estate from a construction standpoint, adding value to that real estate. And I'm going to continue to do that. That's like that nest egg that I'm building for my children's children.
And how do you manage to divide your time between the two out of interest sake? I find it gets quite tricky trying to run a few different things.
That's a really good subject to bring up. In the beginning, I struggled with that a lot. I always wanted to do everything on my own. I always wanted to have the construction and do all that on my own. And I always wanted to have the real estate and do all that on my own. It took me 10 years to get $5 million worth of real estate. In 1 year, I got into over $50 million worth of real estate. And being in $50 million worth of real estate was a lot more fun than owning $10 million worth of real estate. And the main reason is because I had partners that were good at the things that I was bad at. So the things that I was bad at would take up 90% of my time, where the things that I'm good at would only take up 10% of my time, but I didn't really spend much of my time on that. Yeah. So now I'm getting into bigger deals and I'm focusing just on the construction and the renovation of those deals, things that I love doing, that I love, the people that I love being around, and letting my partners deal with the operations things that I hate, and I hate getting focused on these nitty-gritty details of that. It's all about building partnerships and being able to put the people around you. That's my goal for the next 10 years. Is like the first 10 years after graduation of college, it was about saving Oliver. Now it's about building people around me and helping them get to their goals, their personal, professional, and financial goals. And that's building the team and growing together with people. I always think back, well, how did I get to where I'm at? I got to where I'm at because I continued to work on myself and continued to invest in myself and continue to put myself around good people. Yeah. Well, how are the people that I'm surrounding myself going to get better? We're going to have to invest in them. We're going to have to put good people around them. And I'm committed to doing that. I'm committed to investing in my people, investing in my team, and continuing to build my team. Over the next 10 years, I want to have a team of people around me that are all successful, that are all doing really well.
Absolutely. And I think people are looking, and there's a large need and demand for leadership like that. So I think it's an exciting space for you. You'll probably find people gravitating towards you the more they get to know you. I certainly gravitate towards you. I love your energy every time that I get to chat to you. And I think you play your humility cards extremely well. We're talking to a really successful person here on the show today, and he always sounds so humble when he speaks. So I think what I wanted to touch on next was, you've got this experience in the construction space. We probably have a few listeners over here that are either owner-operators themselves or investors or brokers. Whatever the case is, I think from my perspective, I would like to learn a little bit more from you on the construction side. Is if I was looking to buy an existing project, and specifically, I think your main focus on the real estate side is just multifamily, or is there other industries or sectors?
From the real estate side, multifamily. Correct.
Multifamily, yeah. So if I'm looking to buy a multifamily apartment complex from a construction perspective, what am I looking at for an existing building? Like, what would be your top 3 things to look for? And then when considering to do a new development, what would your top 3 things be to look for? So let's maybe start with the existing first.
So for existing, honestly, I love when I have a run across a property that has down units. I know that's instant value that I can create. I love a property that has foundation issues, because I know those are all problems that I can solve, but people get scared from those. So there's going to be less buyers, and there's going to be less people chasing that one deal. So that means I'm going to be able to buy the property at a price point that's very cost effective for me and for my investors. And the third thing I would consider is, I like properties that need, situations where they need playgrounds for the community building. Because I'm just a firm believer that if you can build the community, then people will start referring other friends to live in the area. People just continue to push for your property. Whereas if you don't have that, people are just it's just a place to live, and as soon as they can get out of there, they want to get out of there. I like having a community that people can live for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I love seeing those people in my community.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And if I wanted to go a layer deeper, so when you're looking for an apartment block with down units, let's say I'm touring this property and I see that there's 10 down units on the property, what are the things that I should be looking for in these down units that are scary and probably costly to fix, versus we're just going to figure out it's going to be a hard turn and we're going to get this thing up and running. What's some of the most costly expenses you would say you've seen or come across?
I mean, foundation things are always really expensive. Water situations are all expensive, and water foundations. And, those are the two big ones.
Yeah.
And I think those are the things that scare most people. That's where the true value is at, because honestly, and that's one thing I love about construction is there's always an answer. There's always a solution for it. If you can get the seller to pay for that solution, then all of a sudden you fix the problem, and then all of a sudden you've just created all this value.
Absolutely.
People, I even take that same standpoint from my construction business. I don't want the jobs where I'm painting. I don't want the jobs where I'm doing flooring. People will be like, "Hey, Oliver, why do you want those type of jobs?" Because they're easy. Everybody can do those jobs.
Yeah.
If it's easy and everybody's doing those jobs, then that means there's no margin on those jobs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I want jobs that are hard and complicated. I don't want everyday people to be able to walk in and be like, "Oh, you just do this, you do that, you do this." I want the jobs you have to think, because that's where I can separate myself. That's where I can actually buy deals at good price points.
Yeah.
That's where I can actually make money, and not money that, pays the bills. This is money that I can retire on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is money that I can provide for my kids on.
For sure.
Because most people don't want to think. They want to just get an easy result. So there's always going to be a lot of competition in those situations. I want to think. I want to figure the hard situations out, right? Because at the end of the day, there's always a solution for them.
Yeah. I love that, man. I'm going to find all these projects with big problems. I'm going to pick up the phone and give you the call. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, especially, we've come off the back of an extremely competitive market for a long period of time. A lot of people entering the space, trying to do the same thing. To be able to differentiate yourself like that, I think gives you a massive advantage. We'll see how it goes now into the future. I think everyone's optimistic that pricing's sort of going to pull back for a little bit and there'll be some good opportunities again, but no one really knows what's going on with the situation. Then, so stepping into the other thing, if I was considering doing a new development, what would be your top tips over there to consider?
New development is tough. The reason why I cut my teeth in new development, I would buy dilapidated properties here in DC, and I would renovate them and turn them into 2, 3, 4 unit properties. The reason why I fell in love with multifamily was that I could still get that construction bug. I buy a 100-unit building and there's 20 units that I need to do construction on. That's great. I can feed that construction bug. But at the same time, I had cash flow coming in. So the 80 units that I was being able to rent was now paying my mortgage, right?
Yes.
So when you buy a new development deal, you're carrying an 800-pound gorilla on your back from day one. You're paying the mortgage, you got investors, and then now all of a sudden you're dealing with regulatory environment. You got to get permits. You got to deal with the local municipalities to approve all this stuff. And then when you get that permit, then you have to deal with contractors, delays, but at the same time, when you're finished with that, you get a brand new product. So I like the model from the standpoint of you have a brand new building to now operate, and you're not going to be dealing with a lot of the leaky toilets and the, the issues you normally would deal with when you buy an existing building.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have an 800-pound gorilla on your back. And the people that are in development deals now in a tough economy, it's a totally different ball game in comparison to someone who's got cash flow. Yeah. At the end of the day, when you really think about the essence of this game, is to be able to hang on. It's like you're a little kid and you're on the monkey bars, right? Yeah. And you're just holding on and moving forward. But like when there's a problem, you still need to be able to hold on. And if you're paying for all of it on your own, or your team is paying for all of it on, there's only so long you can hold on. So it's always great when you have a bigger team. And what I mean by that is you have your team, and then you have all of the people who are living in your apartment building that are helping you pay the bills to keep going on, right?
Yeah.
So new development is great. I think there are some opportunities there. Obviously the equity multiple is always greater, with the new development stuff. But you are taking on a considerable amount more risk.
More risk. Yeah. I mean, earlier on you mentioned coaching, and I need to wrap this up, but I'm curious for you to share with people, how much time do you spend on coaching, personal development? How much money, I think people sometimes underestimate the amount of time and money and commitment it takes to trying to be the best in their field. And so I know that you're an astute learner and enjoy spending time and money and energy on those things, because it obviously develops yourself. I just think it'd be interesting for you to share a little bit more about that with everyone.
Yeah, putting yourself around good people, putting yourself around the team that's going to help you get to the next level it's the single most important thing any person can do. I think back about my construction days. When I first got into construction, I got my brains beat in. I mean, I got beat up so many different ways. I was pretty much left for dead. You know, I was $500,000 in the hole.
Oh my gosh.
And at that point, I committed to partnering with one of my current partner now. And I said, whatever we get moving forward, we split 50-50. We don't even have a written agreement put together, right? We don't even have a written agreement, but I just gave him my word, and I'm a man of my word. And we built the company doing federal government work, and I pay him $1 million a year. Yeah. But you know how much you know how much knowledge that I've been able to get? You know how many projects I've been able to get with his experience and expertise? And he helped me get in position for those projects in the beginning. But I continued to grow. I continued to better myself. I didn't just sit there and let this person be here. I continued to grow, continued to get better, continued to do more, continued to want to do more, right? Yeah. And then now we have 3, 4, 5 years later, we have 2 top dogs that now can handle tons of work and can handle the fire of the storm, you know?
Yeah.
And it didn't happen overnight. So like I had to change. I had to be a different person to run a $10 million company. I couldn't be the same person that was in college running the company that I have now. I literally had to change who I was. I had to let that person go. When I say change, it's like most people are like, dude, what do you mean by change? It's like, we've all done it. We're not the same person that we were in 6th grade that we had to be in high school, right? You change as a person. And I think what happens is like, we get so comfortable that we forget to change as we get older. Yeah. And I know, and I understand the reason why. The reason why we forget to change is we put so much energy in one direction that if we feel like if we change, we're not being true to what we've already committed so much of our life to. But like, what if I told you that if you do change, more of your life will unfold for you, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to the simple concept of, like, there's a fly and he's in a windowsill and he's just flying into that windowsill. He's just flying into that windowsill. He's just flying into that windowsill. He wants more. He wakes up and he's hungry today and he's flying into that windowsill. He's flying into that windowsill. When 10 feet away, there's that door. And if he flies right outside that door, he has the rest of his life to live ahead of him. Yeah. And that's how most of us are living our lives. You know, we're just so afraid to let go of what we've already done and accomplished. Like, most people that go to college and work for someone, I had to let go of that thought process and the idea that I was going to work for someone and start my own and create my own and build my own. Now I have to let go of like my own, and I have to grow and I have to undertake over the idea of my team, us, we, you know?
Yeah.
Because us and we are going to get me so much farther than me. I can only work 20 hours a day, right? And if I'm working 20 hours a day, what else am I giving up in my personal life?
Yeah.
But like, if I have a team of us working, 10 of us working 10 hours a day, now we have 100 hours a day focused on all of our dreams, goals, and aspirations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to change, and there's different changes that you have to make throughout life, but you've got to constantly change, you know?
Yeah.
You have to be committed to being committed to changing. Yeah. Most people aren't.
Yeah. And I think you got such a good point that, you know, all of us are changing all the time. Unfortunately, for most, it's not intentional change. And it sometimes doesn't, until it's intentional, you have no direction as to where that change is going. So, yeah, I think, look, I've got a lot of gratitude for you being on the call today. I know that you've just had your baby. And so, thanks again for being on here. God's richest blessings on you and your family and the new addition. I think it's going to be an amazing time. Kaylee and I are very excited for our girl arriving at the end of July, God willing. So that's very exciting. The last thing that I wanted to ask you is, how can people add value to you and vice versa? How can you add value to them, as well as how could they get hold of you?
Yeah, I'm looking to start a podcast. It's going to be the Imperfect Entrepreneur podcast. So it's going to be the IE, I for imperfect, E for entrepreneur, and then podcast, PODCAST.com. Yeah, it'd be great to see people subscribe and listen and provide comments. What I'm going to do is on that podcast, I'm just going to start to document the journey of like, hey, I'm starting this new project and sharing my imperfect journey of life, in business and real estate, sharing my growth strategies, sharing the people that I've met along the way that have added a ton of value to me, and hopefully they can add value to my listeners, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And if they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can reach out to me at Oliver at OLIVER, then at THE imperfect IE podcast.com. So Oliver at TheIEpodcast.com.
Perfect. So I'll put that in the links below.
All right, cool.
If you want to reach out, they can get that. And thanks again for your time. I really appreciate you being on the show and hope to have you again soon.
You're a good man. Thank you.
Thanks, Oliver.
And just like that, ladies and gents, we've concluded another episode of the Creative Real Estate Podcast. If we brought any value to you, please go ahead and share the podcast or subscribe to all our other social platforms for additional content. From me to you, thank you for your time, and remember to stay curious and keep it creative.